Welcome back to the Retirement Key. My name is Casey, and today we are talking about something that every retiree needs to hear, because when it comes to protecting your retirement, it's not just about what you do, it's also about what you watch out for. So we're going to dive into red flags for retirees, those warning signs that something might be off in your financial life. And to help us break it all down, I'm joined by financial advisor Joshua Barbin from Abich Financial Services. JB, welcome back. How we doing?
I'm doing great, Casey. How you doing?
I'm great. Let's kick things off with the first red flag, the relationship that sets the tone for your entire retirement strategy, and that's the relationship you have with your financial advisor. So, JB, what are some red flags retirees should look for when it comes to their advisor?
Couple things, Casey. So number one, I would just say baseline communication. I mean, are you having at least one conversation with this person a year? I think that's probably really low, but let's start there. Sometimes that's not even the case. So is it just a baseline communication? Secondly, like, do you have a clear understanding of the way that you're invested, your income plan? I mean, just basic stuff that if you came to talk to us, we would give you for free. Like, we'd at least give you a decent idea of that. So if you didn't have that, another red flag, and this is a little more phase 2 focus, retirement planning focus, but if you're approaching or entering retirement and have not had any discussion about the difference of investing in retirement versus investing while you're working, if your advisor hasn't even brought that to you or made any suggestion that there should be any changes at all, that's a little bit of a red flag to me, just because what we know mathematically and psychologically happens when you move into retirement, something called sequence of return risk, and just the change of not having income anymore. I mean, there's basic changes, but if your advisor hasn't suggested any change at all there, could be a red flag.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important to work with someone that you can trust to act in your best interest, and somebody that you can sit down and communicate with and not feel uncomfortable. Now, let's move on to taxes, JB. Taxes are one of the biggest financial hurdles that people will face. So what are some potential tax bomb red flags that retirees should be aware of, especially when it comes to things like Social Security, RMDs, IRA balances? Talk to us about that.
Yeah, I mean, when I talk to a group of people, a lot of times I would say probably 80% of the wealth of this room is what's called a tax-deferred account. So this can get pretty big, especially we deal with a lot of govies. You know, they've got the shutdown right now, but you know, these people are working with big pensions, military, a lot of people who are in that kind of setting. So Social Security, been working their whole life, some good Social Security benefits. So when you add on this RMD that's coming to 73 or 75 years old, and you haven't done any planning around it, it can really create what you call a tax time bomb, and I think that's a great way to discuss it. The other one is, you know, passing on a tax time bomb to your children. Not that that's a terrible thing. It's not the worst outcome in the world. Everybody loves receiving money, and so, you know, you pass on money that has a tax liability attached to it. It's not the worst thing, but you just never know where tax rates might go for you in your lifetime, or for, you know, somebody's children, especially, and you go multi-generationally, and you're, you know, the United States government's the best place in the world to live, no doubt about it, but we do have some debt problems, you know, and the likelihood the taxes get raised in the future is high enough that I would be concerned about just having like all my wealth still subject to the risk of the United States government if they decide to raise the taxes. And you just are a victim of that at that point.
Yep. A lot to be on the lookout for in the tax department, for sure. That's the understatement of the century. Now, retirement, it's not just a solo journey. It affects your spouse, your family, and ultimately the legacy that you want to leave. And as we know, JB, sometimes communication can be a big issue for people. So what are some communication red flags that retirees might face with their spouse or their family when it comes to money, when it comes to planning, or their expectations?
You know, you often get this, that the wealth of a household was managed by one of the two spouses. A lot of times that's actually the husband, though not always the case, but oftentimes you'll get a husband who enjoys investing, actually kind of enjoys like dabbling in the market, taking some positions. They might have their own little philosophy of how they invest, and it works well enough. It's done good, you know. But the problem with it is that the wife oftentimes has zero idea what the husband is doing. And people come into our office for this reason alone. It's like, I like it. It's fun. I get a kick out of it. We've done good. But I'm starting to get to the point, like, if something happened to me, my wife is just going to be totally on an island. And I wouldn't feel totally comfortable. A lot of husbands, like, that was one of the big drivers why they even created wealth in the first place. They, if it's just a single guy, a lot of times they'll just have a mattress in a room. But if it's a husband, sometimes they'll build a nest egg to take care of their family, especially their spouse. And they recognize that, if they're gone, there's nobody there to help, and the spouse hasn't been paying attention too much to it, and they don't talk about it. Nobody talks about investment portfolio over dinner. So this is a benefit of communication, and having that neutral third party is very helpful there.
Absolutely. And that leads us right into estate planning, because if you're not talking about it, or if your documents are outdated, that's a red flag too. So what are some estate planning red flags retirees should address sooner rather than later?
You'd be surprised, Casey. Even people with relatively high levels of wealth, estate planning is one of those things that you can just leave on the back burners. Why? Probably because it's not a comfortable topic to talk about,
Right.
just like money in general, not overly comfortable to talk about on the regular basis. So these things can just be neglected or just kind of pushed back in time, and then something happens and there's just nothing there. And especially if you have a significant estate, or if things have changed significantly since the last time you updated it when you were 32, it's a whole different world that you're dealing with. And if you don't do anything, the world has mechanisms to help you to do something, but they're expensive. And they're intrusive, and they're, you hear nightmare stories of people being in a probate court or having difficulty accessing assets or just tracking down stuff. It's just nightmarish, like not having your affairs in place. And that's another added benefit of working with a firm like Abich, where you really get that help to make sure everything is in order, everything's in place, so that you're just going to be taken care of.
Not fun conversations to have, but so crucial to your planning process. Now, unfortunately, JB, retirees are often targeted by scammers, and sometimes those scammers can even be people that they know. So what are some of the most common scams or financial exploitation tactics that retirees need to be on guard against?
Boy, that's a good question. I would say, the basic scam of email phishing, those type of scams, they're just on the rise. And, I've been subject to them sometimes too. I'm not even gonna lie. They're pretty good.
Look legit, yeah.
They look good. It's they're getting, it's unfortunate that you have people that are so dedicated to doing kind of nefarious activity in the world. You wonder if they just put that activity to good use. But anyway,
Right.
Sorry for that aside. But
That's another episode for another day.
So, yeah. I would be really cautious about email phishing scams and anything that was, we need you to send money here immediately.
Your grandkids in jail in Mexico.
Yes, yeah, anything like that. And again, this is where having a trusted third party, that it's somebody that you can lean on,
Run it by them.
Yes, because I've got this in the mail, and actually sometimes it's legitimate, but it's tough to tell these days. Hey, I got this in the mail about a certain position I own. Should I respond to it? Is this a real or scam? So we just had the chance to kind of put a second set of eyes on that sometimes.
For sure. All right, well, lastly, let's turn the lens inward, because sometimes the red flags aren't external, they're in our own behavior, and the call is literally coming from inside the house. So, JB, what do you think are some behavioral red flags that retirees should watch out for within themselves?
Gambling. Gambling in the stock market is number one.
Let's plug the hotline number if you think you have a problem.
the NVIDIA options, I've been seeing a lot of this lately. Nothing wrong with them per se. The Coinbase option, that I would be concerned, just man, am I taking too much risk with my portfolio? This is to the self-manager. There's other red flags as well. Becoming too conservative is also a red flag there. I'm trying to think of some others. That was the first one that came to mind. I've been seeing a decent bit of that. Behaviorally, here's one, Casey, it's a little bit different. I think not having a total purpose of where you want your retirement to go, and just becoming kind of lost in it. Sometimes people don't retire for this very reason. They don't know what they want. In a moment that is almost like you've reached the dream, where you don't have to work to fund your lifestyle. If you do this retirement planning right, you don't have to work. Your lifestyle is funded, and the problem is they don't know what the lifestyle is after. So it can set in loneliness, things like that. But that's another part of just having real conversations. And sometimes that does take a third party to find out, like, okay, I'm good. I'm covered financially. Now what? And so that's another red flag that I see sometimes as well.
Absolutely. Incorporating the help of a professional sooner rather than later. JB, thank you so much for your fantastic insight. As always, these are so much fun. Listen, we know we've covered a lot of ground, from spotting red flags with your financial advisor, protecting yourself from scams, even checking in with your own mindset. So if any of these warning signs hit close to home, or if you just want to make sure that your retirement plan is on solid ground, I encourage you not to wait. You can learn more or get connected with JB and the team at Abich by visiting our website, theretirementkey.com. And from there, it's going to have all the resources that you need to get connected and learn more. Thanks so much for joining us, and we will see you next time here on The Retirement Key.